Mm, भुवस्सुवः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यम् भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो न प्रचोदयात्। ॐ शान्ति शान्तिः। We now have Vivan starting with chapter 14, unit Ratanji of Nanded.
Ratanji of Nanded. Now let us come to the main story of this chapter. In Nanded, in the Nizam state, there lived a Parsi mill contractor and trader by name Ratanji Sharpurji Wadia. He had amassed a large amount of money and had acquired fields and lands. He had got cattle, horses, and conveyances and was very prosperous. To all outward appearances, he looked very happy and contented, but inwardly and really he was not so. Providential dispensation is such that no one in this world is completely happy and rich. Ratanji was no exception to this. He was liberal and charitable, gave food and clothing to the poor, and helped all in various ways. The people took him to be a good and happy man. But Ratanji thought himself miserable as he had no issue, male or female, for a long time. As Kirtan, singing glories of the god, without love or devotion, music of singing without rhythmic accompaniments, Brahmin without the sacred thread, proficiency in all arts without common sense, pilgrimage without repentance and ornamentation, without a necklace are ugly and useless. So is the house of a man or householder without a male issue. Ratanji always brooded on this matter and said in his mind, would God be ever pleased to grant me a son? He thus looked morose, had no relish for his food. Day and night he was enveloped with anxiety whether he would never be blessed with a son. He had a great regard for Daskanu Mahajat. He saw him and opened his heart before him. Daskanu advised him to go to Shirdi, take Baba's darshan, fall at his feet, and seek his blessings and pray for issue. Ratanji liked the idea and decided to go to Shirdi. After some days, he went to Shirdi, took Baba's darshana, and fell at his feet. Then, opening a basket, he took out a beautiful garland of flowers and placed it around Baba's neck and offered him a basket of fruits. With great respect, he then sat near Baba and prayed to him, saying, many persons who find themselves in difficult situations come to you, and you relieve them immediately. Hearing this, I have sought anxiety, I have sought anxiously your feet. Please, therefore, do not disappoint me. Sai Baba then asked him for dakshina of rupees 5, which Ratanji intended to give, but added that he had already received rupees 3-14-0 from him, and then he would pay the balance only. Hearing this, Ratanji was rather puzzled. He could not make out as to what Baba meant. That was the first time he thought that he went to Shirdi, and how was it that Baba said that he had earlier already given rupees 314 from him. He could not solve the riddle, but he sat at Baba's feet and gave the balance of dakshina asked for, explained to Baba fully as to why he came and sought his help, and prayed that Baba should bless him with a son. Baba was moved and told him not to be worried and that henceforward his bad days had ended. He then gave him Udi, placed his hand on his head, and blessed him, saying that Allah, God, would satisfy his heart's desires. Then, after taking Baba's leave, Ratanji returned to Nanded and told Daskanu everything that had took place at Shirdi. He said that everything went on well there, that he got Baba's darshan and blessing with prasad, but there was one thing that he could not understand. Baba said to him that he had got rupees 314,000 before. Please explain as to what Baba meant by this remark. He said to Daskanu, I never went to Shirdi before, and how could I give him the sum to which Baba referred? To Daskanu also it was a puzzle. He pondered much over it for a long time. Sometime afterwards, it struck him that Ratanji had received some days ago a Mohammedan saint by name Maulu Sahib in his house and had spent some money for his reception. This Maulu Sahib was Coolie Saint well known to the people in Nanded. When Ratanji decided to go to Shirdi, this Maulu Sahib accidentally came to Ratanji's house. Ratanji knew him and loved him, so he gave so he gave a small party in his honor. Taskanu got from Ratanji the yadi or memo of expenses of this reception, and everybody was wonderstruck to see that the expenses amounted to exactly rupees 314,000, nothing more, nothing less. They all came to know that Baba was omniscient, that thought, that thought he lived in Shirdi. He knew that what happened outside far away from Shirdi. In fact, he knew the past, present, and future, and could identify himself, heart and soul, with anybody. In this particular instance, how could he know the reception given to Malu Sahib and the amount spent therefor, unless he could identify himself with him and be one with him? Ratanji was satisfied with this explanation, and his faith in Baba was confirmed and increased. In due time afterwards, he was blessed with a son, and his joy knew no bounds. It is said that he had in all a dozen issues, out of which only four survived. In a footnote towards the end of this chapter, it is stated that Baba told Rao Bahadur Hari Vinayak Sathe, after the death of his first wife, to remarry and he would get a son. R.B. Sathe married second time. The first two issues by this wife were daughters, and he therefore felt very despondent. But the third issue was a son. Baba's word did turn out true, and he was satisfied. Dakshina Mimansa. Now we shall close this chapter with a few remarks about Dakshina. It is a very well known fact that Baba always asked for Dakshina from people who went to see him. Somebody may ask a question: if Baba was a fakir and perfectly non attached, why would he ask for dakshina and care for money? We shall consider this question broadly now. First, for a long time, Baba did not accept anything. He stored burnt matches and filled his pocket with them. He never asked anything from anybody, whether to be a devotee or otherwise. If anybody placed before him a pice or two, he purchased oil or tobacco. He was fond of tobacco, for he always smoked a beedi, a chillum, an earthen pipe. Then some persons thought that they could not see the saints empty handed, and they therefore placed some copper coins before Baba. If a pice was placed before him, he used to pocket it. If it was if it was a two pice coin, it was returned immediately. Then, after Baba's fame had spread far and wide, people began to flock in numbers, and Baba began to ask dakshina from them. It is said in the Shruti Veda that puja of the gods is not complete unless a gold coin was offered. If a coin was necessary in the puja of the gods, why should it be not so in the puja of the saints also? Ultimately, the Shastras laid it down that when no one goes to see God, King, Saint, when one goes to see God, King, Saint, or Guru, he should not go empty handed. He should offer something, preferably coin or money. In this connection, we may notice the precepts recommended by the Upanishads. The Brihadaranyaka Upanishad says the Lord Prajapati advised the gods, men, and demons by one letter, Da. The gods understood by this letter that they should practice one, Dhamma, i.e., self control. The men thought or understood that they should practice two, Dana, i.e., charity. The demons understood that they should practice three, Daya, i.e., compassion. To men, charity or giving was recommended. The teacher in the Taittiriya Upanishad exhorts his pupils to practice charity and other virtues. Regarding charity, he says, give with faith, give with magnanimity, i.e., liberally, give the modesty with awe, give with modesty, with awe, with sympathy, in order to teach the devotees the lessons of charity and to remove their attachment to money and thus to purify their minds. Baba extracted dakshina from them, but there was this peculiarity, as Baba said, that he had to give back 100 times more of what he received. There are many instances in which this has happened. To quote as instance, Mr. Ganpatrao Bodas, the famous actor, says in his Marathi autobiography that on Baba's pressing him often and often for dakshina, he emptied his money back before him. The result of this was, as Mr. Bodas says, that in later life he never lacked money, as it came to him abundantly. There were also secondary meanings of dakshina, in many cases in which Baba did not want any pecuniary amount. To quote two instances, one, Baba asked rupees 15 as dakshina from uh, Pro Gigi Narke, who replied that he did not have even a pie. Then Baba said, I know you have no money, but you are reading Yoga Vahista. Give me dakshina from that. Giving dakshina in this case meant deriving lessons from the book and lodging them in the heart where Baba resides. 2. In the second case, Baba asked a certain lady to give rupees 6 as dakshina. The lady felt pained as she had nothing to give. Then her husband explained to her that Baba wanted 6 inner enemies, lust, anger, avarice, etc., to be surrendered to him. Baba agreed with this explanation. It is to be noted that though Baba collected a lot of money by dakshina, he would distribute the whole amount the same day, and the next morning he would become a poor fakir as usual. When Baba took his Mahasamadhi, after receiving thousands and thousands of rupees as dakshina for about 10 years, he would only he had only a few rupees in his possession. In short, Baba's main objective in taking dakshina from his devotees was to teach them the lessons of renunciation and purification. Postscript. Mr. B.V.D.O. of Thana, retired Mamladkar and a great devotee of Baba, has written an article on the subject in Shri Sai Leela magazine, volume 7, page 6 to 26, in which he says, amongst other things, as follows: Baba did not ask dakshina from all. If some gave dakshina without being asked, he sometimes accepted it, and at other times he refused it. He asked it from certain individuals only. He never demanded it from those devotees who thought in their minds that Baba should ask them for it and they should pay it. If anybody offered it against his wish, he never touched it, and if he kept it there, he asked him to take it away. He asked for small or big amounts from devotees according to their wish, devotion, and convenience. He asked it even from women and children. He never asked all the rich for it, nor from all the poor. Baba never got angry from those whom he asked dakshina and who did not give it. If any dakshina was sent through some friend who forgot to hand over the same to Baba, he reminded him somehow of it and made him pay it. On some occasions, Baba used to return some sum from the amount tendered as dakshina and ask the donor to guard it or keep it in his shrine for worship. This procedure benefited the donor or devotee immensely. If anybody offered more than he originally intended to give, he returned the extra amount. Sometimes he asked more dakshina from some than what they originally intended to give. And if they had no money, asked them to get or borrow from others. From some, he demanded dakshina 3 or 4 times a day. Out of the amount collected as dakshina, Baba spent very little for his own sake. For, ba- uh, for buying chillam, clay pipe, and fuel for his dhuni, sacred fire, and all the rest he distributed as charity in varying proportions to various persons. All the paraphernalia of the Shirdi Sansthan was brought by various rich devotees at the instance and suggestion of Radha Krishna Mai. Baba always used to get wild and scolded those who brought costly and rich articles. He said to Mr. Nana Sahib Chandorkar that all his property consisted of one coupon, coat piece, one stray piece of cloth, one kafni and tumbrel, tin pot, and that all the people troubled him by bringing all these unnecessary, useless, and costly articles. Women and wealth are the two main obstacles in the way of our pramartha, spiritual life. And Baba and provided in Shirdi two institutions, Dakshina and Radha Krishna Mai. Whenever they came to him, he demanded Dakshina from them and asked them to go to the school, Radha Krishna Mai's house. If they stood these two tests well, i.e., if they showed that they were free from attachment for women and wealth, their progress in spirituality was rapid and assured by Baba's grace and blessings. Mr. Dio was also quoted passages from the Gita and Upanishads, and shown that charity given in a holy place and to a holy personage conduces to the donor's welfare to a great degree. What is more holy than Shirdi and its presiding deity, Sai Baba? Bow to Sri Sai, peace to be all. Chapter 15. The readers may remember that mention was made in the sixth chapter regarding the Ramanavami festival in Shirdi, how the festival originated, and how in the early years there was a great difficulty in getting good Hari, Hardidas for performing Kirtan on that occasion, and how Baba permanently entrusted this function, Kirtan, to Daskanu permanently. Now, in this chapter, we should describe the manner in which Daskanu was performing the Kirtan. Naradiya Kirtan Padhati. Generally, our Haridases, while performing the Kirtan, wear a gala and full dress. They put on a headdress, either a feta or a turban, a long flowing coat with a shirt inside, an uparin short dhotar on the shoulders, and the usual long dhotar from the waist below. Dressed in this fashion for some kirtan in the Shirdi village, Daskanu once went to bow to Baba. Baba asked him, "Well, bridegroom, where are you going dressed so beautifully like this?" "For performing a kirtan," was the reply. Then Baba said, "Why do you want all this paraphernalia, coat, operini, and feta, etc., of all before me? Why wear them on the body?" Dasganu immediately took them off and placed them at Baba's feet. From the time Dasganu never from that time Dasganu never wore these things while performing the kirtan. He was always bare from waist upwards, and a pair of chiplis was in his hand and a garland around his neck. This is not in consonance with the practice generally followed by all the Haridasa. But this is the best and the purest method. The sage Narada, from whom the Kirtan Padhati originated, wore nothing on his trunk and head. He carried a veena in his hand and wandered from place to place everywhere, singing the glory of the Lord. Mr. Cholkar's sugarless tea. Initially, Baba was known in Pune and Ahmednagar districts, but Nana Sahib Chandorkar, by his personal talks, and by Daskanu, by his splendid kirtanas, spread the fame of Baba in the Konkan Bombay Presidency. In fact, it was Daskanu, may God bless him, who, by his beautiful and imitable kirtans, made Baba available to so many people there. The audience who came to hear the kirtans have different tastes. Some like the erudition of the Haridas, some his gestures, some his singing, some his wit and humor, some his preliminary dissertation on Vedanta, and some others his main stories, and so on. But among them there are very few who, by hearing the kirtan, get faith and devotion or love for gods or saints. The effect of hearing Daskanu's kirtan on the minds of audience was, however, electric, as it were. We gave we give an instance here. Daskanu was once performing his kirtan and singing the glory of Sai Baba in the Kupineshwar temple in Thana. One Mr. Cholkar, a poor man serving as a candidate in the civil courts in Thana, was amongst the audience. He heard Daskanu's kirtan most attentively and was much moved. He there and then mentally bowed and vowed to Baba, saying, "Baba, I am a poor man, unable to support my family. If by grace I pass the departmental examination and get a permanent post, I shall go to Shirdi, fall at your feet, and distribute sugar candy in your name." As good luck would have it, Mr. Cholkar did pass the examination and did get the permanent post, and now it remained for him to fulfill his vow. The sooner the better. Mr. Cholkar was a poor man with a large family to support, and he could not afford to pay for the expenses of a Shirdi trip. As is well said, one can easily cross over Nahane Ghat in Thana district or even the Sayadri range, but it is very difficult for a poor man to cross Umbere Ghat, i.e., the threshold of his house. As Mr. Cholkar was anxious to fulfill his vow as early as possible, he resolved to economize, cut down his expenses, and save money. He determined not to use sugar in his diet and began to take his tea without it. After he was able to save some money in this way, he came to Shirdi, took Baba's darshan, fell at his feet, offered a coconut, distributed it with a clean conscience along with sugar candy as per his vow, and said to Baba that he was much pleased with his darshan and that his desires were fulfilled that day. Mr. Was in the masjid with his host Bapu Sahib Jog when the host and the guest both got up and were about to leave the masjid. Baba spoke to Jog as follows: "Give him, your guest, cups of tea fully saturated with sugar." Hearing these significant words, Mr. Cholkar was moved. He was wonderstruck. His eyes were bedewed with tears, and he fell at Baba's feet again. Mr. Jog was also curious about this direction regarding the teacups to be given to his guest. Baba wanted, by his words, to create faith and devotion in Cholker's mind. He hinted, as it were, that he got the sugar candy as per his vow, and that he knew full well his secret determination not to use sugar in his diet. Baba meant to say, if you spread your palms with devotion before me, I am immediately with you day and night. Though I am here bodily, still I know what you do beyond the seven seas. Go wherever you will over the wide world, I am with you. My abode is in your heart, and I am within you. Always worship me, who is seated in your heart, as well as in the hearts of all beings. Blessed and fortunate indeed is he who knows me thus. What a beautiful and important lesson was thus imparted by Baba to Mr. Chokar. Two lizards. Now we close this chapter with the story of two little lizards. Once Baba was sitting in the masjid. A devotee sat in front of him when a lizard tick-ticked. Out of curiosity, the devotee asked Baba whether the tick-ticking of the lizard signified anything. Was it a good sign or a bad omen? Baba said that the lizard was overjoyed as her sister from Aurangabad was coming to see her. The devotee sat silent, not making out the meaning of Baba's words. Immediately, a gentleman from Aurangabad came on horseback to see Baba. He wanted to proceed further, but his horse would not go, as it was hungry and wanted grams. He took out a bag from his shoulders to give grams and dashed it on the ground to remove dirt. A lizard came out there from and, in the presence of all, climbed up the wall. Baba asked the questioner devotee to mark her well. She at once went strutting to her sister. Both sisters met each other after a long time, kissed and embraced each other, whirled around, and danced with love. Where is Shirdi and where is Aurangabad? How should the man on horseback come from the come? How should a man on horseback come there from Aurangabad with the lizard? And how should Baba make the prophecy of the meeting of the two sisters? All this is really very wonderful and proves his omniscience and all-knowing nature of Baba. Postscript. He who respectfully reads this chapter or studies it daily will get all his miseries removed by the grace of the Sadguru Sai Baba. Hence, bow to Sri Sai, peace to be all.
Thank you, everyone. We now have Divya continuing with chapter 16.
Quick Brahmanyana. These two chapters relate the story of a rich gentleman who wanted Brahmanyana quickly from Sai Baba. Preliminary. The last chapter described how Mr. Cholkar's vow of small offering was completed and accepted. In that story, Sai Baba showed that he would accept with appreciation any small offering offered with love and devotion, but if the same thing was offered with pride and haughtiness, he would reject it. Being himself full of Satchit Anand, existence, knowledge, and bliss, he did not care much for more outward formalities, but if an offering was made in meek and humble spirit, the same was welcome, and he accepted it with pleasure and avidity. In fact, there is no person more liberal and benevolent than a Sadguru like Sai Baba. He cannot be compared to the Chintamani jewel, the philosopher's stones, which satisfies desires, the Kalpatru, the celestial tree which fulfills our desires, or the Kamadenu, the celestial cow which yields what our desires, or the Kamadenu, the celestial, sorry, or the celestial cow which yields what we desire. For they give us only what we desire, but the Sadguru gives us the most precious thing that is inconceivable and inscrutable, the reality. Now let us hear how Sai Baba disposed of a rich man who came to him and implored him to give him Brahmanyana. These was a rich gentleman, unfortunately his name and whereabouts are not mentioned, who was very prosperous in his life. He had amassed a large quantity of wealth, houses, field and lands, and had many servants and dependents. When Baba's fame reached his ears, he said to a friend of his that he was not in want of anything, and so he would go to Shirdi and ask Baba to give him Brahmanyana, which, if he got, would certainly make him more happy. His friend dissuaded him, saying, "It is not easy to know Brahman, and especially so far of a very avaricious man like you, who is always engrossed in wealth, wife, and children. Who will, in your quest of Brahmanyana, satisfy you that won't give away even a pice in charity?" Not minding his friend's advice, the fellow engaged a return journey tanga and came to Shirdi. He went to the masjid, saw Sai Baba, fell at his feet, and said, "Baba, hearing that you show the Brahmin to all who come over here without any delay, I have come here all the way from my distant place. I am much fatigued by the journey, and if I get the Brahmin from you, my troubles will be well paid and rewarded." Baba then replied, "Oh, my dear friend, do not be anxious. I shall immediately show you the Brahmin. All my dealings are in cash and never on credit. So many people come to me and ask for wealth, health, power, honor, position, cure of diseases, and other temporal matters. Rare is the person who comes here to me and asks for Brahmanyana. There is no dearth of persons asking for worldly things, but as persons interested in spiritual matters are very rare. I think it is a lucky and auspicious moment when persons like you come and press me for Brahmanyana. So I show to you with pleasure the Brahman with all its accompaniments and complications." Saying this, Baba started to show him the Brahman. He made him sit there and engaged him in some other talk or affair, and thus made him forget his question for the time being. Then he called a boy and told him to go to one Nandu Marwari and get from him a hand loan of 5 rupees. The boy left and returned immediately, saying that Nandu was absent and his house was locked. Then Baba asked him to go to Bala Grocer and get from him the said loan. This time also, the boy was unsuccessful. This experiment was repeated again, twice or thrice, with the same result. Sai Baba, as we know, the living and moving Brahman incarnate. Then someone may ask, why did he want the paltry sum of 5 rupees? And why did he try hard to get it on loan? Really, he did not want that sum at all. He must have been fully knowing that Nandu and Bala were absent, and he seems to have adopted this procedure as a test for the seeker of the Brahman. That gentleman had a roll or bundle of currency notes in his pocket, and if he was really earnest, he would not have sat quiet and be a mere onlooker when Baba was frantically trying to get a paltry sum of 5 rupees. He knew that Baba would keep his word and repay the debt, and that the sum wanted was insignificant. Still, he could not make up his mind and advance the sum. Such a man wanted from Baba the greatest thing in the world, the Brahmajnana. Any other man who really loved Baba would have at once given him 5 rupees instead of being a mere onlooker. It was otherwise with this man. He advanced no money, nor did he sit silent. But he began to be impatient as he was in a haste to return and implored Baba, saying, "Oh, Baba, please show me the Brahmin soon." Baba replied, "Oh, my dear friend, did you not understand all the procedure that I went through sitting in this place for enabling you to see the Brahmin? It is, in short, this. For seeing Brahmin, one has to give 5 things, i.e., surrender 5 things. 1, 5 pranas, vital forces. 2, 5 senses. 5 of action and 5 of perception. 3, mind. 4, intellect, and 5, ego. This path of Brahmanyana, of self-realization, is as hard as to tread on the edge of a razor. Sai Baba then gave rather a long discourse on the subject, the purport of which is given below. Qualifications for Brahmanyana or self-realization. All persons do not see or realize a Brahman in their lifetime. Certain qualifications are absolutely necessary. 1, mamaksha, or intense desire to get free. He who thinks that he is bound and that he should get free from bondage and works earnestly and resolutely to that, and who does not care for any other things is qualified for the spiritual life. 2. Virakti, or a feeling of disgust with the things of this world and the next. Unless a person feels disgusted with the things, emoluments, and honors which his action would bring in this world and the next, he has no right to enter into the spiritual realm. 3. Antarmukhata, introversion. Our senses have been created by God with a tendency to move outward, and so man always looks outside himself and not inside. He who wants self-realization and immortal life must turn his gaze inwards and to look to his inner self. 4. Catharsis, from purging away of sins. Unless a man has turned away from wickedness and stopped from doing wrong and has entirely composed himself, and unless his mind is at rest, he cannot gain self-realization even by the means of knowledge. 5. Right conduct. Unless a man leads a life of truth, penance, and insight, a life of celibacy, he cannot get God realization. 6. Preferring Shreyas, the good, to Preyas, the pleasant. There are two sorts of things, the good and the pleasant. The former deals with spiritual affairs and the latter with mundane matters. Both these approach man for acceptance. He has to think and choose one of them. The wise man prefers the good to the pleasant, but the unwise, through greed and attachment, chooses the pleasant. 7. Control of the mind and senses. The body is a chariot and the self is its master. Intellect is a charioteer and the mind is the reins. The senses are the horses and sense objects their paths. He who has no understanding and whose mind is unrestrained, his senses unmanageable like the vicious courses of a charioteer, does not reach his destination, get realization, but goes through the rounds of births and deaths. But he who has understanding and whose mind is restrained, has his senses being under control, like the good horse of a charioteer, reaches that place, i.e., the state of self-realization, hence he who is not born again. The man who has understanding of his charioteer guide and is able to rein his mind reaches the end of the journey, which is the supreme abode of the all-pervading Vishnu, Lord. 8. Purification of the mind. Unless a man discharges satisfactorily and disinterestedly the duties of his station in life, his mind will not be purified, and unless his mind is that viveka, discrimination between the unreal and real, and vairagya, non-attachment to the unreal, crop up and lead on to self-realization. Unless egoism is dropped, avarice got rid of, and the mind made desireless, pure, self-realization is not possible. The idea that I am the body is a great delusion, and attachment to this idea is the cause of bondage. Leave off this idea and attachment, therefore, if you want to get to the goal of self-realization. 9. The necessity of a guru. The knowledge of the self, if so subtle and mystic that no one could, by his own individual effort, ever hope to attain it. So the help of another person, teacher, who has himself got self-realization is absolutely necessary. What others cannot give with great labor and pains can be easily gained with the help of such a teacher, for he who has walked on the path himself and can easily take the disciple step by step on the ladder of spiritual progress. 10. And lastly, the Lord's grace is the most essential thing. When the Lord is pleased with anybody, he gives them viveka and vairagya and takes him safe beyond the ocean of mundane existence. The self cannot be gained by the study of the Vedas, nor by intellect, nor by much learning. He whom the self chooses gains it. To him, the self reveals its nature, says the Katha Upanishad. After this dissertation was over, Baba turned to the gentleman and said, "Well, sir, there is in your pocket the Brahma in the form of 50 times 5, 250 rupees. Please take that out." The gentleman took out from his pocket the bundle of currency notes, and to his great surprise found on counting them that there were 25 notes of 10 rupees each. Seeing this omniscience of Baba, he was moved and fell at Baba's feet and craved for his blessings. Then Baba said to him, "Roll up your bundle of Brahma currency notes. Unless you get rid completely of your avarice or greed, your will not get the real Brahma. How can he whose mind is engrossed in wealth, progeny, and prosperity expect to know the Brahma without removing away his attachment for the same? The illusion of attachment or the love for money is a deep eddy whirlpool of pain full of crocodiles in the form of conceit and jealousy. He who is desireless can alone cross this whirlpool. Greed and Brahma are as poles asunder. They are eternally opposed to each other. Where there is greed, there is room for thought or meditation of the Brahma. Then how can a greedy man get dispassion and salvation? For a greedy man, there is no peace, neither contentment nor certainty, steadiness. If there be even a little trace of greed in mind, all the sadhanas, spiritual endeavors, are of no avail. Even the knowledge of a well-read man who is not free from the desire of the fruit or reward of his actions, and who has got no disgust for the same, is useless and can't help him in getting self-realization. The teachings of a guru are of no use to a man who is full of egoism and who always thinks about the sense objects. Purification of mind is absolutely necessary. Without it, all our spiritual endeavors are nothing but useless show and pomp. It is therefore better for one to take only what he can digest and assimilate. My treasury is full, and I can give anyone what he wants, but I have to see whether he is qualified to receive my gift. If you listen to me carefully, you will be certainly benefited. While sitting in this masjid, I never speak any untruth. When a guest is invited to a house, all the members of the household and other friends and relations that happen to be present are entertained along with the guests. So all those that were present in the masjid at this time could partake of the spiritual feast that was served by Baba for the rich gentleman. After getting Baba's blessing, one and all, including the gentleman, left the place quite happy and contented. Special characteristic of Baba. There are many saints who leave their houses, stay in forests, caves, or hermitages, and remaining in solitude, try to get liberation or salvation for themselves. They do not care for other people and are always self-absorbed. Sai Baba was not of such a type. He had no home, no wife, no progeny, nor any relations, near or distant. Still, he lived in the world society. He begged his bread from 4 or 5 houses, always lived at the foot of the neem tree, carried on worldly dealings, and taught all the people how to act and behave in this world. Rare are the sadhus and saints who, after attaining God vision, strive for the welfare of the people. Sai Baba was the foremost of these, and therefore says Himadban. Blessed is the country, blessed is the family, and blessed are the chaste parents where this extraordinary, transcendent, precious, and pure jewel Sai Baba was born. Bow to Sri Sai, peace be to all. How Himadband was accepted and blessed. In the last 2 chapters, Himadband described how a rich gentleman aspiring for quick Brahmanyana was treated by Baba, and now in these 2 chapters, he describes how Himadband himself was accepted and blessed by Baba, how Baba encouraged good thoughts and fructified them, and gives his teachings regarding self-improvement, slander, and remuneration for labor. Preliminary. It is a well-known fact that the Sadguru looks first to the qualifications of his disciples and then gives them suitable instructions without unsettling their minds in the least, and leads them on towards the goal of self-realization. In this respect, some say that what the Sadguru teaches or instructs should not be diverged to others. They say that their instructions become useless if they are published. This view is not correct. The Sadguru is like a monsoon cloud. He pours down profusely, i.e., scatters widely his nectar-like teachings. These we should enjoy and assimilate to our heart's content, and then serve others with them without any reserve. This rule should apply not only to what he teaches in our waking state, but to the visions he gives us in our dreams. To quote an instant, Buddha Kaushik Rishi composed his celebrated Ram Raksha Stotra, which he had seen in his dream. Like a loving mother forcing bitter but wholesome medicines down the throats of her children for the sake of their health, Sai Baba imparted spiritual instructions to his devotees. His method was not veiled or secret, but quite open. The devotees who followed his instructions got their object. Satgurus like Sai Baba open our eyes of the intellect and show us the divine beauties of the self and fulfill our tender longings of devotion. When this is done, our desire for sense objects vanishes. Twin roots of viveka, discrimination, and vairagya, dispassion or non-attachment, come to our hands, and knowledge sprouts up even in the sleep. All this we got when we come in contact with saints, Sadguru, serve them, and secure their love. The Lord, who fulfills the desires of his devotees, come to our aid, removes our troubles and sufferings, and makes us happy. This progress or development is entirely due to the help of the Sadguru, who is regarded as the Lord himself. Therefore, we should always be after the Sadguru, hear his stories, fall at his feet, and serve him. Now we come to our main story. Mr. Sate. There was a gentleman named Mr. Sate who had attained some publicity many years ago during Crawford regime, which was put down by Lord Rie, the then governor of Bombay. He suffered severe losses in trade. Other adverse circumstances gave him much trouble and made him sad and dejected. Being restless, he thought of leaving home and going out to a distant place. Man does not generally think of God, but when difficulties and calamities overtake him, he turns to him and prays for relief. If his evil actions have come to an end, God arranges his meeting with the saint, who gives him proper directions regarding his welfare. Mr. Sate had similar experience. His friends advised him to go to Shirdi, where so many people were flocking to get Sai Baba's darshan for getting peace of mind and the satisfaction of their wants. He liked the idea and at once came to Shirdi in 1917. Seeing Baba's form, which was like eternal Brahma, self-luminous, spotless and pure, his mind lost its restlessness and became calm and composed. He thought that it was the accumulation of merits in his former births that brought him to the holy feet of Baba. He was a man of strong will. He at once started to make a Parayana study of Guru Charitra. When the reading was finished in the Saptaha, 7 days, Baba gave him a vision that night. It was to this effect. Baba, with Guru Charitra in his hand, was explaining its contents to Mr. Sate, who was sitting in front and listening carefully. When he woke up, he remembered the day and felt very happy. He thought that it was extremely kind of Baba, who awakens souls like his that are snoring in ignorance and makes them taste the nectar of Guru Charitra. Next day, he informed Kakasaheb Dikshit of this vision and requested him to consult Sai Baba regarding its meaning or significance, whether one sapta week's reading was sufficient or whether he should begin again. Kakasaheb Dikshit, when got a suitable opportunity, asked Baba, Deva, oh God, what did you suggest to Mr. Sate by this vision? whether he should stop or continue the sapta. He is a simple devotee. His desire should be fulfilled and the vision explained to him, and he should be blessed. Then Baba replied, he should make one more sapta of the book if the work be studied carefully. The devotee will become pure and will be benefited. The Lord will be pleased and will rescue him from the bondage of the mundane existence. At this time, Himatpant was present there. He was shampooing Baba's legs. When he heard Baba's words, he thought in his mind as follows: what? Mr. Satya read for a week only and he got a reward, and I am reading it for 40 years with no result? His 7 days stay here becomes fruitful, while my 7 years stay, 1910 to 1917, goes for nothing. Like a chatak bird, I am ever waiting for the merciful cloud, Baba, to pour its nectar on me and bless me with his instructions. Nor sooner did this thought cross his mind, Baba knew it then and there. It was the experience of the bhaktas that Baba read and understood all their thoughts, and that he suppressed the evil thoughts and encouraged the good ones. Reading Himatpant's mind, Baba at once asked him to get up, go to Shama, Madhavrao Deshpande, get from him 15 rupees as dakshina, sit and chit-chat with him for a while, and then return. Mercy dawned in Baba's mind, and so he issued this order. And who would disobey Baba's order? Himatpant immediately left the masjid and came to Shama's house. He had just bathed and was wearing a dhotar. He came out and asked Himatpant, how is it that you are here now? It seems that you have come from the masjid. Why do you look restless and dejected? Why are you alone? Please sit and rest while I shall do my worship and return. In the meanwhile, you please take banvida, leaves and betel nuts, etc. Let us then have a pleasant chat. After saying this, he went inside and Himatpat sat alone in front of the veranda. He saw in the window a well-known Marathi book named Nat Bhagvat. This is a commentary by the Saint Ekanath on the 11th skanda chapter of the bigger Sanskrit work, the Bhagavad. At the suggestion or recommendation of Sai Baba, Mr. Bapu Sahib Jog and Kaka Sahib Dikshit read daily in Shirdi Bhagavad Gita with its Marathi commentary named Bhavarta Deepika or Jnaneshwari, a dialogue between Krishna and his friend devotee Arjuna, and not Bhagavad, a dialogue between Krishna and his servant devotee Uddhava. And also Ekanath's other big work, Bhavarta Ramayana. When devotees came to Baba and asked him certain questions, he sometimes answered them in part and asked them to go and listen to the readings of the above mentioned works, which are the main treatises of Bhagavad Dharma. When the devotees went and listened, they got full and satisfactory replies to their questions. Himatpant also used to read daily some portions of the book Nath Bhagavad. That day, he did not complete the daily portion of his reading, but had left it unfinished in order to accompany certain devotees who were going to the masjid. When he took up the book from Shama's window and casually opened it, he found to his surprise that the unfinished portion turned up. He thought that Baba sent him very kindly to Shama's house for enabling him to complete his daily reading. So he went through the unfinished portion and completed it. As soon as this was over, Shama, after doing his worship, came out, and the following conversation took place between them. Himatpant, I have come with a message from Baba. He has asked me to return with 15 rupees as dakshina from you, also to sit with you for a while and have a pleasant chit-chat and then return to the masjid with you. Shama, with surprise, I have no money to give. Take my 15 namaskaras, bows in lieu of rupees as dakshina to Baba. Himatpant, all right, your namaskaras are accepted. Now let us have some chit-chat. Tell me some stories and leelas of Baba which will destroy our sins. Shama, then sit here for a while. Wonderful is the sport, leela, of this god, Baba, you know it already. I am a village rustic while you are an enlightened citizen. You have seen some more Leelas since your coming here. How can I describe them before you? Well, take these leaves, betel nut and chunam, and eat the banvida while I go in, dress myself, and come out. In a few minutes, Shama come out and sat talking with Himadbant. He said, "The Leela of this god, Baba, is inscrutable. There is no end to his Leelas. How can how can one see them? He plays or sports with his Leelas still. He's outside of unaffected by them. What do we rustics know? Why does not Baba himself tell stories? Why does he send learned men like you to fools like me? His ways are inconceivable. I can only say that they are not human." With this preface, Shama added, "I now remember a story which I shall relate to you. I know it personally. As a devotee is resolute and determined, so is Baba's immediate response. Sometimes Baba puts devotee to severe tests and then gives them upadesh, instructions." As soon as Himatpant heard the word upadesh, a flash of lightning crossed through his mind. He at once remembered the story of Mr. Sathi's Guru Charitra reading and thought that Baba might have sent him to Shama in order to give peace to his restless mind. However, he curbed this feeling and began to listen to Shama's stories. They all showed how kind and affectionate Baba was to his devotees. Himatpant began to feel a sort of joy while hearing them. Then Shama began to tell the following story.
Thank you, Divya. We'll take a pause here and continue tomorrow. Let us have our closing prayers. साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु। समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु। समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु। Om Shri Sai Ram. Thank you, Bhavan and Divya, for walking us through this today. Thank you all for joining.